Yes, as if the coronavirus isn't bad enough, we also have to sit through the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Then again, we can count ourselves as lucky because we get to sit through this global crisis. Many Ukrainians are either refugees or stuck in the war zone, and they are not having a good time. This shows us the fragility of peace. One day you're hanging out with your neighbors, and the next, it becomes a war zone. The reality is that war is the last resort. This tells us two things. One is that a peaceful diplomatic means are always explored first, which is reassuring. However, the second truth is that war is still very much an option. It might be the last option, but it's on the table. And this brings us to the stark reality of life. Where diplomacy fails, might prevails. This is what we are seeing right now in Ukraine. On Wednesday, Vladimir Putin ordered Russian troops to attack Ukraine after months of buildup. It isn't the first time Russia and Ukraine tussled, either. Does anyone remember 2014? Russian troops rolled into Crimea under the pretense of peacekeeping and annexed it soon after. This only happened because of the weak Western leadership that sat there and let it happen. Ineffective leadership is also to be blamed for this invasion. Now Ukrainians are understanding the importance of the right to bear arms. They flocked to gun stores to get everything that could spit lead. The Ukrainian parliament also passed emergency laws that allow Ukrainians to carry firearms. The government understands that arming the population is the best way to fight a more powerful outside force. Veterans teach civilians how to use guns. War veterans are also teaching Ukrainians various tactics and techniques to fight the Russians. In other European countries where firearm regulations are strict, such training would not be possible. In fact, arming the civilians would be nigh impossible for Ukraine if they don't have so many gun stores compared to its neighbors. As it stands, Russia still has a good chance of winning the war. At the moment of writing, Russia doesn't really show much promise despite having overwhelming firepower. I'm reminded of Russia's embarrassing push into Finland back in the Second World War, but it might be different this time around. Only time will tell. They may win the war, but will lose the peace. When you compare military strength alone, Russia wins hands down. They have more of everything. So achieving superiority on land, sea, and air should be a breeze for Russia. However, everything still comes down to the competency of the chain of command. Even if they manage to take the entirety of Ukraine, maintaining their control will be another problem altogether. Many examples in the past have shown that insurgencies can either shatter the sturdiest of iron fists. Given time, they can topple any military. There is a saying, death by 1,000 cuts, and this is what Ukrainians vowed to do. Ukrainian armors cannot win in a field engagement because Russia has air superiority. However, Russia still needs boots on the ground and tanks in the city to maintain their hold on the region, and this is where it gets dicey. In the city, it's going to be combat for every building and every street. The concrete jungle is a great equalizer. Tanks will be ineffective because their armor is only effective towards the front. Artillery strikes will be ineffective because they'd be shelling their own men once the street-to-street fighting starts. Airstrikes will be ineffective because planes are vulnerable to anti-air weapons the closer they fly to the city. So it'll be a pitched battle between the soldiers on the ground. The Russian army might be better equipped, but they lack information. They're walking into a fortified battlefield where danger lurks at every corner. No matter how well equipped you are, all it takes is a well-placed bullet. Ukrainians have all the time to set up that perfect shot and make Russia bleed, one shot at a time. This strategy would be difficult without firearms, you see. It's easier to subjugate a population when they do not have weapons. They lack the means to fight back, so they didn't. This leaves room for dictators to do what they please without consequences. Did you know that Mao disarmed Chinese farmers before the Great Leap Forward? Stalin did the same for the Russian peasants before the Red Terror. Hitler disarmed the Jews before the final solution. None of these would fly if the victims have firearms. That explains why the right to bear arms is a human right. You can vote the head of state and other politicians out of office. You can rally and protest. You can file a petition. However, tyrannical governments would not listen to you. Where diplomacy fails, might prevails. This is where firearms come in. When all the peaceful options are exhausted and your rights are infringed, it's time to fight to protect them. The Second Amendment is an American right. The Second Amendment gives Americans the right to bear arms. You can understand its importance when the First Amendment that came before it gives American freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. Then other rights come after that. It goes to show that the right to bear arms is almost as important as the right to free speech. However, I would argue that this right to bear arms should not end at the border. The situation in Ukraine right now should illustrate the importance of this right. Other countries in Europe might not realize its importance until the enemy is right at the border, which would be too late when that happens. This explains why some Americans are holding on to the right to bear arms for dear life. It's a sacred right that should not be taken away. So what do you think about the whole crisis and the right to bear arms? We would love to hear from you in the comments section. If you've enjoyed this video, consider giving us a like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Also, make sure to hit that bell icon so you don't miss out on any new videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.